It's getting to that point in time where you guys are about to get ready to pick your 5-star base character combatant selector, but who should you pick? What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and we're doing two very important things when we're talking about these characters today. I am going to keep in mind that you guys are probably looking to put together a second team at this point in time as you're getting to your 300 pity count rescue, as you're trying to do something to maybe fulfill a little bit more fun or get something together for the tower. And also on top of that, we are also going to go over a couple of characters who might have really nice duplicates as well. If you're someone who already has your teams together, if there's like a very important memory imprint, we'll talk about that for those characters as well. So let's just run down through the agent collection in order here. Now, Luke, as a character, if you're trying to put a secondary team together, I'm going to keep it short and sweet for you here. You can do anything with basically any character in this game at the end of the day with the right team and the right build. No one seems to be kept out of being able to complete content. But if I was to tell you that Luke was going to give you a big bang for your buck when you're putting together your secondary DPS character, or maybe even your first primary DPS 5-star character, I would be lying to you. Can you do stuff with him? Sure. Is he going to take advantage of all of the mechanics in the games that all the other characters can do as far as card draw and buffs and all this other stuff? Not as well as a lot of the other characters. So if you wanted to pick up Luke, like I said, anyone at the end of the day can work for you. I can't say that he's worth your selector though, but if you're a Luke main out there, maybe you were talking about, are there good E1s or E2s for Luke? Is there anything that makes him like game breaking better? His E1 is all right. It's going to buff up one of his main payoffs in the form of finisher round. So this is a card you could duplicate during your chaos run and get even more advantage out of it. It makes it easier to use, buffs the damage of it as well, and does help solve his little bit of problems where like he just kind of likes to generate bullets but not really have a big payoff a lot of the times in the cards he's using, right? But this is going to help you out, make your payoff a little bit better, make it a little bit easier to use. And then E2, funny enough, if you use 3 bullets, you're going to create some extra handgun bullets as well. They're going to do a little bit less damage, but it's just free damage at the end of the day. And I do think it's funny that his E2 allows you to use 3 bullet cards, meaning you've generated 3 bullet cards to give you 2 more bullet cards for 5 bullet cards total. But his E1 changes his card from using 5 handgun bullets to 4 handgun bullets. So it makes it easier to use, but with the E2, you would have 5 handgun bullets anyway. So I don't know. I think it's funny, but it is a little bit of a damage increase. They're fine. I would pick them up specifically for Luke unless you're like a Luke main though. Calipe. Now Calipe is going to be one of the characters that if you don't have, you didn't reroll for, she's going to be high value for you both inside and outside of the chaos zone. So if you're using your save data, or if you're just running through chaos manifestation, she's going to be an excellent character. She's extremely flexible. She offers nice defense based damage. So she's got damage going there. She's got AoE damage going on. She can also offer up shielding for your team. She's got a little bit of card draw as well. She also has tenacity damage with overpower, which is very nice inside of and outside of chaos runs. If you're fighting multiple enemies or even just one enemy, sometimes you can get vulnerable or weaken debuffs as well, which can be very powerful for either preventing damage to your team or doing bonus damage for your team, depending on which sort of epiphanies you roll with on her. She's very good in some long lasting battles as well, because you're able to just create vulture ejections with her ego skill and then just keep casting them for free every single time, because they're going to be just like the base version. They're going to have celestial, they're going to have retain, and you're just gonna be able to fire off damage that way. So she's a fantastic character. If you haven't picked her up, she's gonna be probably one of the top priorities for you if you're not looking for another DPS or like a more supportive character. If you're looking for like a shielder, AoE damage dealer, someone that you can kind of go anywhere, both inside and outside of chaos, and basically almost any team, unless you're trying to do some crazy combo based team that doesn't really need her utility, you're going to find a spot for her. Now, as far as manifest ego imprints goes for Calipe, the first one's fine. It adds shields to absolute protection. It does give it retain, which allows you a little bit more flexibility in mana efficiency, AP efficiency, because you don't have to use it or lose it. It is nice. It's not game breaking, but you can do stuff with this where you're not drawing it over and over and over and never casting it. It can just sit there in your hand and just be out of your discard pile, out of your draw deck. You don't have to worry about drawing it a bunch of times. And then eventually, if you do need some emergency shielding, you can just slap it down, proc all the other celestial cards that you have of hers in your hand as well. So it is a pretty nice it is a pretty nice manifest ego. And if you're like a Calipe main, think about picking that one up. If at the end of the day you've noticed like you're just removing retain from your decks, retain's always a card that you're sad to keep drawing, that kind of removes that problem all on its own. And then this one here just gives her a little bit more consistency. It just puts Vulture Ejection basically on the top of your draw pile in every time you shuffle. So you're going to be running into Vulture Ejection over and over and over. It just makes her more consistent with what one of the main things you want her to do in your party is, which is just defense-based damage, give me shields, do more damage, do AoE, and she's just going to keep doing that at the start of the battle and every time you shuffle as well. So Manifest Ego number 2 is also very nice there. The rest of them just kind of give you more damage. They just do some other stuff. They're just a numbers bonus, but the first two there kind of change what you can expect out of your Calipe. Now Magna is going to be like the other, like, I'm going to shield and do it character. You can make a nice standing still, I'm here and I realize team. She did get some bugs fixed as well with some of her skills. There was I forget which one it was. Was it Iron Fist? There was one of the fist cards that had like a 50% mod and it wasn't calculating correctly. And it's a lot better now, but she is there to just kind of shield and do damage based on her defense. She does those two things, and she also likes to counterattack as well. She's a very solid character, and don't think of her just as a I only shield character. She's really a shielder damage dealer. In a lot of the most efficient and most effective teams with Magna in them, they actually build her and focus the team around Magna being able to shield and do damage, and then you just give her some supports that can give her AP, give her some card draw, and you just allow her to be a source of big damage on your team for her. She's not like a secondary, you know, shield type damage character. She's really like almost like a hyper carry defensive scaling shielding DPS character a lot of the times at the end of the day. She's good for that reason. If that sounds fun to you, go for it. I think I have her placed on my tier list of most broken characters in the high tier potential, where like she doesn't do like broken loops of damage or anything, but she can be built around and it's very consistent for you. As far as ego skills go, so her first manifest ego, if you want to look at this, adds initiation to her ultimate card basically. So if you're looking forward to spending 2, it does have lead as well, so you can get it reducted. And this also works pretty well with any of like the equipment that can cast a lead card if you're in chaos for free at the start of your turn if they have it in their opening hand. And it's just going to allow you to just enable free counterattacks, which is pretty nice. And you're always going to be able to base your, you know, your run, your build. Anytime you go in with Magna, you know you're going to have this in your opening hand, and you know you're going to be able to cast it for 2 or 1 mana, which is pretty nice. You know, it gives you consistency to her as a character with her counterattack strategy. And then Magna's counters inflicting freeze. When they take damage, they just have this freeze debuff on them, and it's going to make it do a little bit of AoE damage as well. And it's from Magna's attack cards. Keep that in mind. It's not from when you counter, it's from attack cards, and then the freeze debuff is removed. So what happens here is you can use this to kind of really change your build and focus on some of the cards that give Magna counterattack to all enemies. Like with Ice Wall, you'll give them all the freeze, and then on your turn when you go to use attack cards that work with the E2 here, you'll be able to then proc AoE damage as well from the freeze debuff. So you can have AoE counters proccing and stuff, and then apply a counter to everybody, and then use Magna attack cards that are based off her defense, and then just get free bonus damage off that as well. So a lot of the E1 and E2 for Magna is just like we talked about, working on her like hyper carry sort of like defensive shielding, you know, damage dealer. The rest of them just free counterattack and stuff like that, but there's not really anything that's as big of a game changer for her as her E1 and her E2. Rin is a character that if you're interested in picking up a secondary damage dealer, especially if you don't have a void one, because there's Tressa, right, Rin, and then we have like Kayron for big void DPS characters. Rin is someone that you could be interested in picking up. She's very fun to play. She takes a while for you to learn how to play. I think a lot of the times people play with Rin, they don't get a good build. They run her through chaos 1 or 2 times, don't really know what's going on. Maybe have her paired with some partners that don't really work that well, have her paired with teammates, I meant to say, that don't work that well with her, and they call her garbage. But she's like one of the best hyper carry high potential characters that are a DPS character in the game. And if that sounds interesting to you, you're looking to make a secondary team around that, or you need a void DPS in the first place, then she's awesome. She's all about staying in her stance. You want to pair her up with some control character, support characters, any other support characters that help you facilitate drawing your other characters' cards, drawing Ren's cards, anyone that gives a little bit of AP can help you out there as well. And a lot of the times, if you come in here and you get this version where it decreases the cost of all the cards of Ren, you can pair with two people that just draw a lot of cards, like Nia and Ray. You just draw a bunch of cards and stuff like that, and then you just make sure you have this Dark Mist Secret Art. Pop Dark Mist Secret Art, make all of the cards that you've drawn that turn, you know, full-handed cards for Ren, like basically free, and just shove it all into your opponent's face. So pretty good character if you're looking forward to something like that. As far as manifest egos for this character, E1 is just going to give 20% more damage, which is pretty nice. Of Dark Mist Secret Art Black Dance, you know, just free damage is pretty good, and this is very good because it's a hit multiple times. So you're getting a big bonus off of this because this is one of her, like, I'm doing a lot of damage now, and it works very well with the teams we just discussed. A lot of card drawing stuff. You got all the leftover Ray and Nia cards that are skill cards you don't need anymore. Dark Mist Secret Art, big damage, and then it's just gonna be 20% more with the E1. So not game breaking or anything, but it's just free damage. E2 here is also just more free damage. When you go into Dark Mist Stance, if you have E2, you're just gonna get this free payoff card, which is just a card that does more damage based on of how many other attack cards you've played this turn. So this is just one more final finishing hit onto your combo if you have the E2. It's very nice. She does have a couple other ones as well. The big one here a lot of people really like is the E4, is if she's not in her stance and you just use one of her cards, she's gonna go into Dark Mist Stance. This makes her like way easier to play. It makes her way more consistent. If you get a bad hand or whatever, you don't have the cards to activate Dark Mist Stance anymore based on the build you're running, or you're using her in Chaos a lot. This makes her way more consistent. So if you're close to the E4, think about that. The other one's E3, you know, E5, E6, just like before, just more free damage stuff. She doesn't really have any game-changing ones until E4, although E2 and E1 are some pretty significant damage buffs because these are some very nice payoff cards for just doing the Ren thing and playing a ton of cards in one turn. Oh, Orlia. The girl everyone really likes to love or love to hate is here. Orlia is a control character. She does have some very unique stuff. She works well with retained teams, works very well with the likes of Beryl, which is a nice little 4-star sub DPS character that a lot of players like to use to just kind of push through content right now. She works very well there, but I'm not going to, I wouldn't pick this character. All right, I wouldn't pick this character. There are so many broken controller characters in the game that are 4 stars that I don't think you need to be picking Orlia as your character selector. All right, if you're an Orlia main though, there are some very nice manifest egos that make her better and better and better. For instance, like the E1, like simply adding like retain to the Will of Light makes this character way more consistent because you can draw it early and just have it sit there. And then as you draw your other retain cards from like your Beryl or whatever over time, you'll just have this in hand and you'll just go, okay, well, I don't have to now wait 2 more turns to have it come back from my discard pile back in my draw pile and draw it again. Because it had retain, even though you drew it early, it's not going to just discard at the end of turn. It's not a use it or lose it thing. It's going to sit there and work very well with the teams that you're going to be putting Orlia in, and it makes her significantly better, in my opinion. E2, when a creation card evolves into creation 3, the retain is automatically triggered, which is a pretty nice one. So her main gimmick, her main mechanic with her softy, lovey, whatever they're called, whatever these things are called, are pretty nice, right? You get the big versions of them at level 3 and you're just doing a free attack. You're getting damage percent bonuses. You're getting a free heal or something. And just having her E2 is just going to allow that to happen instantaneously for you. Which is nice. Is it huge? It's free. It's good. It makes her act quicker and do her gimmick faster by a whole turn, which is very nice. My main complaint with Orlia and retained teams a lot of the times is you just have to wait 1 more turn. I really feel like I'd want to wait, and this kind of gets rid of that. And so I think it's a pretty nice buff to her if you're an Orlia fan there. This one, it's okay. Just evolving your guys to your 6-point ego skill. I don't like using that. And then the rest of them is just like this, just free damage for your whole party at E4. Upgrade your stuff. We don't care about that. And then the fixed damage one. It's really the E1 and the E2. The E1, I think, is the big one. E2 is a little bit, you know, it'll let you have that initiation, that sort of I'm doing something right now. I get my payoff a little bit faster. But the E1 is really, I think, like the game changer for her. Mei Lin. Now, Mei Lin is a character that you can definitely choose to pick as your secondary. I want to make a team based around Mei Lin. Mei Lin's very easy to play. She's very nice. And a lot of times, we'll touch on this right now. A lot of players, when they get the epiphany for unity attack and defense, this one's for you, brother, in the comment section the other day, they don't know the power of this version of the epiphany, the move to basic cards. You read this and it's like that kind of says exactly what the base version does of draw 2 cards. What's the importance here? The move 2 cards means that no matter where they are, you will get them. No matter where they are. They can be in the draw pile, they can be in the discard pile, and they can even be in the used pile. Meaning that if you duplicate this a couple of times, you can go use the first one with only 2 strikes in the deck, strike, use the second one, pull them out of the used pile, strike. It's very powerful. So she's very easy to build if you get that epiphany, and very, very nice in that fashion. Outside of that, she just does a lot of powerful stuff. She likes to put weakness down with attack of passion cards, which is crazy. Free bonus damage there. She works very well with the epiphany here if you want to pay off with the next passion card you used. No, this one. For each passion card you used, 1 extra hit to this skill is crazy, where you can pop a bunch of passion cards, free strikes and stuff for free, and then just drop this dragon kick for a ton of damage, with or without other supports we'll talk about in a minute. But she can even do that on her own with the old unity of attack and defense combo. So she's just in there, does damage, and she's part of the passion element team, and she's really the main character because of this card that allows you to just make everything passion weak. And it's very nice there. She's got some very powerful 4-star options, like Selena works very well with her. Just pair her up with another controller character of your choice, and she's going to be working super well there. So I would put her, and I actually have her, just like Ren, as one of the highest potential characters in the game. So she's definitely a DPS you could think about picking up. As far as manifest egos goes, literally, guys, I think that she has some of the worst manifest egos in the game. It's going to be really one of her main drawbacks. Like, I don't care about this always critting. I don't. Whatever, right? This doing extra ember is probably one of the best ones. You know, it's just free damage early on as you're doing damage. So you'll stack some embers up. It's pretty nice. It's pretty good, but like far from necessary a lot of the times. And then you just have like, cool, my ult. It's cool. It's going to be really good. I don't think it's necessary. Like 2 extra basic attack hits. That's a lot of damage. But if you just go through here, they're all just adding damage. There's nothing in here that's like changing your gameplay style or anything like that. They're all just adding damage in some way, shape, or form. And the E1 here might be one of the worst ones in the game, honestly, for me. I don't really like it that much. But as a base character, she's insane and definitely worth picking up. All right, now we got one of the best out-of-the-box support characters in the game in the form of Veronica. And if you've made it this far, you've liked what we said so far, this character is probably, if you don't own her, probably the one you should be picking up at the end of the day. She is a fantastic character. They have her labeled, you know, not as a support. She's not a controller, but she is such a good support character. Cards like Repost here and some other ones that just allow you to draw other combatant cards for low to no mana are absolutely insane. 0 draw 2 from someone else means that you're not drawing Veronica's cards, you're drawing your Rin's cards, or you're drawing your Barrel's cards, or you're drawing, you know, your Tressa's cards, or whoever you have, or your Mei Lin's cards, whoever you have paired up with her. 0 mana draw 2 of someone else is insane. Then she just got some traditional setup cards. You have Cyril Kowalski for more card drawing. You can draw 2 with this if you want to. You can buff damage of one of her little side DPS ballista cards, and then draw 2 if you want to, right? You can do a bunch of stuff out here. There's so much card drawing with this character, and some nice damage on the side as well. She also is a partner for the I'm going to go infinite with Mei Lin. With this pendant of resolution, you get the god roll on it that makes this cost 0 with the divine epiphany and duplicate it a couple of times. Well, this is a passion skill, and you just cast it a crap ton of times, and you use the Mei Lin card we just talked about that hits an extra time for every passion skill you played that turn, and suddenly you've done 50 to 80,000 damage. It's pretty cool. But outside of that, very strong, support character that offers a little bit of damage. She's got a lot of card draw for you. She's not going to do a whole lot outside of card draw as well as damage, maybe a little bit of shielding on the side, but she's going to do a little bit of damage, a lot of card draw for you. And if you have her paired up with someone like Mei Lin or someone else who can do some passion weakness, very, very strong in that regard. And she's good in both chaos as well as outside of chaos because she's very flexible. You can go in and go for the super crazy card draw support, but sometimes you're running your chaos runs and you just can flex into the I'm gonna do more damage with my Veronica this time because I didn't get the card draw epiphanies, and it's still totally fine. So she's a fantastic character and should be on the upper echelons of people you're thinking about choosing when it comes to this. Now, when it comes to manifest egos, she's got a couple good ones. All right, so this one here, bombardment prep with reload increased by 2. To be honest with you, I'm not even like the biggest fan of this card a lot of the times, especially like the hyper support builds. You could even take it out of the deck because you don't want it to clog your draw for any turn at all. But this is going to make it a little bit better. The big one though here is the E2, the Awakening Memory. So this is whenever an ally uses a targeting attack card, which goes very well with her full support build because she's just going to have a lot of skill cards that draw cards for your other people. A lot of them would be attack cards eventually at the end of the day. It's going to give you this floral scent debuff. It's going to increase their damage taken from her ballistas, which you'll be able to generate a fair amount of. And then when floral scent is removed, it also is going to become like a target for your ballista, which is great. I butchered that. Hold on. And then when you're applying those targeting cards, it's going to put floral scent stacks on them, which increase the damage of your ballista. And you're going to want to target the same person over and over and over. And the other thing that this does is not only just damage percent bonus, but it makes them become the activation target, which is key because it keeps her from just, oh, I have 4 ballistas randomly shooting everywhere. No, it's going to go for the guy with the floral scent on it. So you can mark your target basically now for your Veronica and have it do a bunch of damage, which is crazy good. The rest of them are fine, but really the best one is by far the E2 here. Renoa is basically Luke if Luke was a better character. I think she's one of the best characters that's like pretty easy to play, doesn't have as like high potential as someone like we talked about, like Rin or like Mei Lin with brokenness, but she is pretty solid when it comes to consistency, even inside of chaos runs, because you can generate bullets and discard those pretty easily. You're kind of able to use 3 sort of payoff cards. You're not like with Luke with like, oh, my ultimate card's my only payoff. We have Instant Judgment that cares about bullets and doing damage. We have Ballad that cares about bullets and doing damage. We have Last Ditch Assault that cares about bullets and doing damage. Her ego skill can drive them all back from your graveyard to your hand as well. So you can use multiple payoff cards in one turn. So she's very good in that regard. And I think she is a cool character. She's a good character. She has high potential and a pretty decent floor as well. And if you play around with her, you're going to be, you're going to like this character quite a bit. So you won't hate picking Renoa. You're not going to regret it at the end of the day. As far as manifest egos for her, a lot of them is just like, hey man, when I do my thing, I do my thing a little bit better. This sort of thing, like, oh, we're gonna do a little bit more damage. We're gonna get some other stuff. So the E1 and E2 though, right? The damage amount increased by 20% based on each discarded dirge bullet is gonna give you a nice bit of a payoff increase. So every dirge bullet is gonna give you 20% more. So it's 70 instead of 50. You're not gonna have 10, but easy math, right? If you had 10 bullets in your hand, this would give you an extra 200%. It'd take you from 500% to 700%. Is it worth going all in and picking her for? I don't think so, but like I said, it's just going to make one of her payoffs a little bit better. And then this one right here, for every 4 dirge bullet cards created, create another dirge bullet finale card, which is just like a slightly better dirge bullet. Like we said, I do my thing a little bit better. So she doesn't really have any like game breaking ones, but if you're a fan of Renoa, you're just gonna get free damage, do things a little bit more, and it's gonna be a good time for you. Hugo as well is someone that if you don't have them, works very well in a couple of specific teams. But I will say this, since we're factoring if you're making a secondary team or not, a lot of the times, the best Hugo teams, for the most part, involve using Tressa as well as Mika. meaning that if your team you're using right now, you're happy with, is already using Mika, well, you're going to have to come up with a third team if you're going to be using the Mika, Hugo, Tressa team. So with that in mind, keep that there. Outside of that though, inside of that team, he does a lot of great things. He does really good damage. If you did pull Yuki, you can do the build that we came up with, which is like the all of my skills cost 0, very self-sufficient Yuki build. And you can do like a Yuki plus Hugo plus Nia combination, which is very strong and relaxes the need of using Mika in your Hugo team. He's very straightforward. You just want to pair him with people that cast a bunch of skills and cast a bunch of attack cards so he can use his commence the hunt gimmick, is basically all you really want to do with Hugo. So that's why he works really well with Mika and Tressa, because you make a bunch of shadow daggers that way. It's also why it works very well with Yuki, because she can cast, a fair amount of prepare to subdue skill cards to draw her own attack cards. And then also pair up with Nia, because Nia casts a bunch of skill cards too. So you're going to be able to get those commence the hunt stacks, casting all these skill cards, casting all these attack cards, and doing a bunch of damage that way. If you don't have either of those two characters though, I'd probably avoid picking him. However, if you have him already, is there any like cool, super awesome ego imprints for him? And a lot of them are just like, I do my thing a little bit better than before, right? 10% more on my extra attack damage from commence the hunt. Okay, right? A little bit of extra damage every time you proc commence the hunt. Okay, right? Use last resort, increase commence the hunt by 1. Okay, it's nothing like absolutely game breaking here. The E6 gives you some morale stacks, which is fine, but honestly, the rest of them are just like small incremental damage bonuses, and I don't think any of them like make or break him, so I wouldn't really pick him for ego manifestation imprints. I'd probably just pick a character instead. And we saved my man Kayron, Kayron, for the end. All right, so Kayron, if you want a void DPS who specializes in AoE damage, you can build a team around him and it will be pretty nice. I will say though, we've talked about a lot of other characters that I feel are a little bit higher in the brokenness than Kayron is comparatively in ease of use, those two things together, where they're a little bit easier to use and maybe they're a little bit better in more scenarios, because AoE isn't like a real thing we have to think about constantly in this game quite yet. And that's the thing he specializes in. But what I really do want to talk about is some of his manifest egos, because there's one that actually changes him significantly more than any other character I think we've talked about in this video. So his E1 is just going to help you generate extra futility cards. That's cool. Mention it because we're picking it up on the way that game changes this character. And then this one here, for each futility card you use, you do damage to all enemies. It's sort of like a backup thing. It does turn him into like even better at AoE because you just cast your futility cards and damage all enemies. And this actually, I think futility, can you make futility cost 0 with some? I don't think you can. I don't believe so. This just changes them to that. I don't think you can make them actually cost 0, which would be, no, you can exhaust them, also what I'm thinking of. But the one that changes it is this one. The E3 allows him to basically be used in different ways, right? A lot of the times we're using Kayron right now and you're exhausting the futility cards using someone like Ray, or just casting them and getting them out of your hand for forever. And you want to do that because you don't want to draw them back, right? The exhaust cards come back. And the big payoff is his ego skill, where it exhausts all the futility cards in hand. So a lot of his big turns are make a bunch of futilities, pop the ego skill, do a bunch of damage that way. If you have access to this E3 though, and it doesn't seem like much at first, where you can exhaust them all in hand and graveyard, it opens them up into entirely different team compositions. For one example, right, you can generate a bunch of futility cards. Now that you can choose to exhaust them from hand in your graveyard, you could go right on ahead and pair him up with like a specific build for outside of chaos a lot of the times, with someone like Cassius, right, where maybe you just fill your hand with a ton of futility cards. All right, well, what about you have this shuffle in your deck now, where you discard 9 futility cards, throw them all in the graveyard, draw 9 new cards, all for 1 mana, continue on your merry way doing whatever, maybe generate an AP with Mika or something, have this shuffle duped, it has exhaust too, so it could show up multiple times, generate some more futilities, dump those all into the graveyard, and now you see that we're cooking with gas, right? It opens up potential for this character, because now you're not limited to cards in hand. for his ego skill. You're not limited to what characters you're allowed to use and then have to draw these futility cards again. No, you get the E3 and you can dump tons and tons and tons of these futilities into the graveyard, pop his ego skill, remove like 10, 15, right, from the graveyard, remove like another 5 from your hand, right, remove like total 10 to 20 of these, and you're getting like 800% to plus 1600% damage off of your ego skill and just absolutely nuking things into the floor. Pair that up, since it's all one hit, put some vulnerability on people, baby, now we're cooking, right? We're gonna show Haru who's the real one-shot king. So that potential, that manifest ego, if you're a Kayron main and you're thinking about trying to cook some new stuff up, that one is the one that we can do cool stuff with Kayron. At the end of the day, you're gonna have to pick between one of these 10 characters, and hopefully I gave you some good advice on how I feel. If I didn't have Veronica, I'd 1000% pick her. And who I'm probably gonna end up picking based on the characters I don't have, I'm probably gonna be picking Rin. If you guys wanna see more stuff, let me know about it down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.